Now, I think it's fair to say that I know a thing or two about the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF or SCHD because I've been buying it every single trading day over the past 3 years. Now, on green days, I normally buy a share or two. On red days, maybe a little bit more. But over the last 3 or so years, I've accumulated around 2,381 shares total across all my portfolios, which as of the current annual SCHD payout amount over the last 12 months, I currently earn around $2,400 per year in dividend income. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you guys why I think SCHD is maybe one of the best dividend growth ETFs in the entire market, but I'm also going to share with you the lowest amount of money an investor in theory would need to invest in something like SCHD in order for them to not only compound their portfolio into a massive one long term, but also on top of that earn a boatload of dividend income every single year. Now, I promise you, even if you only have a few $1,000s to invest, you're definitely going to want to stick around until the end. So if you're a dividend investor, especially if you're interested in SCHD, well, make sure to stick around, drop a link down below, and let's get right into it. My A to Z dividend investing ebook has helped countless dividend investors get started with their journey. And my custom dividend tracker that I'm constantly using here on the channel has also helped so many investors stay on track and allow them to see their dividend income in real time. Well, today I have another treat for you guys. I'm not only going to offer you my A to Z dividend investing ebook and the custom dividend tracker, but also just for a short limited time, I'm going to be adding in my brand new weekly dividend blueprint ebook to show you how you can get started with weekly dividend ETFs and add this into your investing strategy. This offer is not going to last long, so go ahead and click the first link down below in my description, and you're going to get both ebooks and the custom dividend tracker bundle. But like I said, please act fast because this won't be around for long. Now let's get back into the video. So again, the reason I'm so obsessed with this ETF in particular, for dividend growth investors or investors that want to buy into dividend paying ETFs or stocks for that matter and get paid more and more in dividend income long term, I personally think that there's probably not a better ETF in the entire market to do so other than SCHD itself. Now, I say that because SCHD is not only tax efficient, but it's well diversified with around 100 different stocks inside the ETF. Now, some ETFs are going to have 200, 300, or 500 different stocks, but I personally think that 100 different names in an ETF is more than enough diversification. Now, SCHD is also super cheap to hold on to. The expense ratio is 0.06%, so you're not going to have to pay an arm and a leg to get access to what this ETF gives you exposure to. But besides all that, maybe the most important reason on why I think this ETF is maybe the best dividend growth ETF across the entire market is because it tracks an index focused on quality and sustainability of dividends. Now, to be fair, there's other ETFs out there that do similar things, but this ETF particularly offers a rather high starting yield and has offered historically incredible dividend growth, which I'm going to show you later on in the video, the math and how that can build a massive compounding machine later on. Now, I made a video as of recently talking about SCHD's current share price and the valuation, and there's a lot of reason to believe that this ETF is still extremely undervalued. I mean, if you take the PE ratio and compare it to the SPY, for example, SCHD is still pretty cheap. But that's sort of besides the point because a lot of us are buying this ETF to hold on to for, say, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I personally want to hold on to my SCHD shares forever. As of right now, it's trading pretty close to all-time highs at around $28 per share as I filmed the video, and over the next time frame, it's up around 232%. Now, because of the way that SCHD has been trading as of recently, the yield is currently down to around 3.5%, maybe 3.6%. Now, again, comparing that starting yield to a lot of the other popular dividend growth ETFs in the market, SCHD offers a nice starting yield, around 3.5% more or less, but also the magical part of this ETF, and something that we've talked about over and over again on the channel, the dividend growth rate. Now, dividend growth is basically comparing the previous year's dividends to the most recent year's dividends and seeing if the dividends have grown over time. Now, obviously, especially with inflation being 3%, 2%, 5%, or some people think 10%, whatever the case might be, you're going to want to have your investments offer you more and more in income long term in order to at least keep up with that. Now, SCHD over the last year has offered a 12% dividend growth rate over the last 3 years, around 10% on average, over the last 10 years, around 11% dividend growth on average. Now, this might be one of the most beautiful bar graphs you can look at. It's SCHD's dividend growth over time. Now, over the past 13 or so years, this ETF has paid anywhere from 4 cents to 5 cents to 7 cents per share per quarter. Because remember, SCHD pays out a dividend every single quarter. Now, as of recent, we're up to 27 cents, 25 cents, 26 cents per share per quarter. Now, without even doing any crazy math, you can sort of imagine that even back in the day, if you had, say, 10, 20, 100, 200 shares, and you were getting paid 4 or 5 cents per share per quarter, now if you're getting paid 3 times that, 4 times that, 5 times as much dividend income over the last 12 or so years, you can only imagine how excited you'd be. Now, if you were to extrapolate this out over the next, say, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you can only start to imagine how much of a compounding machine this ETF can be. Now, besides all of that, you guys are here for another specific reason. The title of the video says, what's the lowest amount that you can buy into this ETF to basically have enough when it comes time for retirement? So let's start off with $10,000. $10,000 invested in the market is not an insane amount of money. Maybe some of you guys have 1,000, 3,000, 5,000. Maybe some of you guys watching this video have millions. But regardless, $10,000 starting principal with $2,000 after that every single year. So again, around $12,000 in the first 12 or 24 months. A 3.6% initial annual dividend yield, a 10% expected annual dividend amount increase, which again, this could go up or down over time. All these numbers are to be estimated, guys. Go ahead and take some time on your own and mess around with some of these free dividend calculators and type in some different scenarios for your specific situation. That can be extremely motivating, and that's something that I did in my early days of investing, so I definitely recommend it. Now, the expected annual share price appreciation, of course, could go down or up, but let's go with 5%, 30 years invested, quarterly distribution or quarterly dividends, and DRIP's going to be turned on. So this is basically saying you're going to buy $10K worth of SCHD, buy another $2,000 per year, and then all the dividends you get along the way reinvest. Now, the first few years, nothing's going to be that crazy. You're going to earn around $300-400 per year in dividends, and your portfolio is going to be worth around $10,000 to $15,000. But 10 years down the road, just based off the numbers that we went off of, your dividend income is going to be substantially higher just after 9 or so years. 10 years down the road, you're almost at $50,000 of principal. Now, to cut to the chase, a $10,000 investment and then dividends being reinvested along the way, with that extra $2,000 per year in contribution, we're talking the final balance at $820,000 and $101,000 per year in dividends. Now, I always have to say this. I know some people in my comments are going to be saying, well, we don't know what's going to happen with SCHD's dividend in the future. Is it going to keep going up at 10%? Is it going to go down to 8% or 5%? Or is it going to go up to 20%? Again, that's why it's just fun to estimate and mess around with. But the crazy thing is that if we go off all the same exact numbers, but just change the starting principal to $5,000. So again, this is just $5,000 into SCHD with $2,000 on top of that per year. If we see what that's going to end up with long term, just based off of everything we went off of, we're still talking $682,000 after 30 years and around $84,000 per year in dividends. Now, if you're saying, well, 30 years of investing is a very long time, I don't have all the time in the world to wait. Well, then probably the next best thing to do would be to start off with a larger principal investment, or of course, contribute a lot more into your portfolio per year. But the reality is, in the real magic with SCHD or other dividend growth style ETFs that do have a high dividend growth rate is that, as you can see right here in my portfolio, I'm currently getting paid around $2,300-2,400 per year in income from SCHD alone. And as you can see, even if I never buy another single share based off an 11% dividend growth rate, which is what we've seen historically, I'm going to this year get $2,600, then $2,900, then $3,200, and then around 10 years down the road, my dividend income is basically going to be tripled. Now, again, over the next several years, I'm going to buy a lot more shares of SCHD with these dividends, along with other cash balance that I have in my portfolio. So this 2,381 shares is probably going to be closer to 3,000 or 4,000. So the magic really happens when you let the power of compound interest do its thing and let it sort of snowball into a massive pool of cash later on. So now that we talked about my favorite dividend growth ETF in the entire market, one of my largest holdings as of right now is SCHD, and I share with you guys what might be the lowest amount of money, potentially at least, to be able to retire off this ETF later on. I lastly, most importantly, have a question for you down below. As far as an ETF goes, what's your number one favorite ETF that you've been stacking shares of across the market over the last several years? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.